Well, hello there, and I do hope you're all well. How did our Feeble Prime Minister Liz Truss crumble over fracking for natural gas? Well, what I mean is, as she came out of hiding, she decided to do some 5-minute interviews with local BBC radio stations. So she was asked by BBC Lancashire presenter Graham Liver about the consent for fracking.
Let's talk about local consent right now. What does that look like? Scott Benton, the Conservative MP for Blackpool South, in a tweet says he believes that people in Blackpool South do not support fracking. This is the Tory MP for Fylde, Mark Menzies, in the House of Commons.
If the Prime Minister is to remain a woman of her word, a woman that we can believe in, which I believe she is, can the Secretary of State outline how that local consent will be given and demonstrated in my constituency of Fylde?
What does local consent look like, Prime Minister?
Well, the Energy Secretary will be laying out in more detail exactly what that looks like, but it does mean making sure there is local support for going ahead. And I can assure
it sounds
you,
like you don't know.
And I can assure Mark Menzies. Well, there are various detailed issues to be worked through, but I can assure Mark Menzies that I will make sure there is local consent if we are to go ahead in any particular area with fracking.
But your local MPs don't want it, all Conservative. In the past, the County Council have said they didn't want it, yet your government overturned it. The science hasn't changed. Why can't you tell us this morning there won't be a return to fracking in Lancashire?
Well, I don't accept the premise of your question.
Why?
It's certainly the case at present. Well, because what I've said is if there is local consent, we will go ahead. We need to explore where there is local consent and where there isn't, and we're still doing that work.
Your Chancellor,
I don't think we should rule out the whole of Lancashire.
You talked about how it's a success in other countries, but in America they do it in the middle of nowhere. Do you actually know where Preston New Road is, where they have been fracking?
Well, I don't think I've been to that site in the past.
Shouldn't you?
Can you hear the fumbling? That's clearly she's very, very uncomfortable now. She's put herself into a spot, hasn't she?
Well, as I've said, we will only go ahead with projects where there is local consent. I'm very, very clear about that. Now, we will make sure that local consent is in place.
Now, that was all clear as mud, wasn't it? If you pardon the pun. But whoever thought going onto a number of local radio stations was a cracking idea for a painfully lazy Prime Minister clearly needs firing, because I was listening to Theo Ushwood about this on LBC, and he said for a time that when he worked on local radio stations, it's a tough business to be in because they are all out to do each other. And so if she thought she was going to get an easy ride, she was sadly mistaken. Now I know that our Bodge Jobson was exactly the same, wasn't he? But he's a master of bluff and bluster, isn't he? He would just say the first thing that just comes into his head, regardless whether it made any sense at all to the question, or he'll just dream up another answer to another question that he thinks you said. Well, he would master it at PMQs. But with her, you could actually hear the cogs whirring inside of her head. It was woo, 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 and the uncomfortable shifting on the seat in between the long bouts of pauses. It was just painful, wasn't it? She's useless. But let's be honest, you guys have been with us and watched her do these committee meetings. She's useless. She's lazy. She doesn't know what day it is, let alone where she is anywhere. She always has that, oh, am I, where am I, look. And I was just painful. Jesus Christ. But anyway, do hope you enjoyed the video. And till the next time, I shall bid you farewell and take care. Oh, in the next video, a little something different. Just when you watch it, just tell us what you think. But anyway, I'll leave the video here, and so take care.